Prabhuji, we are live. Switch on the lights. Prasannatma na sochati na kanchati samaha sarvesu bhutesu mad bhaktim labhate param. Prasannatma na sochati na kakshati samaha sarvesu bhutesu mad bhaktim labhate param.
Brahma-Bhuta,
Buddha,
being one with the Absolute.
being one with the Absolute.
Prasanatma,
Prashanatma,
fully joyful.
fully joyful.
Na,
Na,
never.
never.
Shochati,
Sochati,
laments.
laments.
Na,
Na,
never.
never.
Kakshati,
Vakshati,
desires.
desire.
Samaha,
Samaha,
equally disposed.
equally disposed.
Sarveshu,
Sarvesu,
to all.
to all.
Bhuteshu,
Bhuteshu,
living entities.
living entities.
Mat Bhakti,
Mat Bhaktim,
my devotional service.
my devotional service.
Labhate,
Labhate,
gains.
gains.
Param,
Param,
transcendental.
transcendental.
Translation. One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments or desires to have anything. He is equally disposed towards every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. Repeat after me, please. One who is thus transcendently situated
One who is thus transcendentally situated
at once realizes the Supreme Brahman
at once realizes the Supreme Brahman
and becomes fully joyful.
and becomes fully joyful.
He never laments or desires
He never laments or desires
to have anything.
to have anything.
He is equally disposed
He is equally disposed
towards every living entity.
towards every living entity.
In that state,
In that state,
he attains pure devotional service unto me.
he attains pure devotional service unto me.
Bhaktivedanta Prabhupada. To the impersonalist, achieving the Brahma Buddha state, becoming one with the Absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go further to become engaged in pure devotional service. This means that one who is engaged in pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord is already in a state of liberation called Brahma Buddha, oneness with the Absolute. Without being one with the Supreme, the Absolute, one cannot render service unto him. In the Absolute conception, there is no difference between the served and the servitor, yet the distinction is there as in a higher spiritual sense. In the material concept of life, when one works for sense gratification, there is misery. But in the absolute world, when one is engaged in pure devotional service, there is no misery. The devotee in Krishna consciousness has nothing for which to lament or desire. Since God is full, a living entity who is engaged in God's service in Krishna consciousness becomes also full in himself. He is just like a river cleansed of all dirty water, because the pure devotee has no thoughts other than Krishna. He is naturally always joyful. He does not lament for any material loss or aspire for gain, because he is full in the service of the Lord. He has no desire for material enjoyment, because he knows that every living entity is a fragmental part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and therefore eternally a servant. He does not see in the material world someone as higher or someone as lower. Higher and lower positions are ephemeral, and the devotee has nothing to do with ephemeral appearances or disappearances. For him, stone and gold are equal value. This is the Brahma Buddha state, and this state is attained very easily by the pure devotee. In that state of existence, the idea of becoming one with the Supreme Brahman and annihilating one's individually becomes vanished. The idea of attaining the heavenly kingdom becomes phantasmagoria, and the senses are like serpent's teeth that are broken, as there is no fear of a serpent with broken teeth. There is desire for the senses, when they are automatically controlled, the world is miserable for the materially infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a state can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, who preached pure devotional service in this state.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
But now, Brahma Buddha Prasanatma Nashvachati Nakamshati Samma Sadrishi Bhutashi Mabhati Navate. So, we are being told today that one who is just transcendentally situated, how transcendentally situated, we read that one who is transcendently seated is having been purified by his intelligence, controlling one's mind with determination, giving up the objects of sense gratification, being free from attachment and hatred, living in a secluded place, eating little, controlling the body, mind, and power of speech, who is always in trance and who is detached, free from false ego, false strength, false pride, lust, anger, and acceptance of material things, free from false proprietorship and peaceful. Such a person is certainly elevated to the position of self-realization. So it's this person with all these qualities that I've just mentioned that Krishna is defining as that a person who is thus situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman. So it means that without those qualities, then you can't come to the realization of realizing the Supreme Brahman. So when the Maya bodies are talking, then we just have to put for them the previous qualifications that Krishna has given. That for one even to just, because coming to the Supreme Brahman means they're actually coming to the platform of the Maya body realization, of realizing the oneness, being one with God. But like Prabhupada says in this part, that for a devotee, that one there is not an achievement. That one there is just preliminary stage. Because the soul's constitutional position is to render service to the Supreme Personality of God. And without service, then the soul will fall down again, automatically, because he has not got his position of service. The soul's nature is to render service. Without service, the soul cannot exist. So to try and go to the Brahma-Jyoti and say that you are now one with the Lord and there is no service, then it is not satisfying for the soul. So we are told that we have to come to the platform of, because the Maya bodies becoming one with the Absolute, that is an achievement for them. For them, becoming one with the Absolute is an achievement for them. And then they say that you have to be there without any lamentation. without any desires. You have to be equiposed. But how can you be equiposed in a nothingness? In a nothingness, you can't be equiposed. But equiposed in what? There's no basis where you can actually judge that. So we are told that the desires that we're trying to curb are actually lust, anger, and greed. And they are known as the three gates of hell. And it says that lust, anger, and greed are the beginning of demonic life. Once the soul gets captivated by lust, anger, and greed, then it radically turns into a demon. So we have to try and fight for our actual position of being servants rather than being averse and being demons. So we have only two choices. Am I going to be demonic or am I going to be a baptist? Am I going to be devoted to God or am I going to be averse to God? Being averse to God means your one is being demonic. Being for God means that you're actually being a Vaishnava, a devotee. And the pure devotional service, to be in the ground of state, one has to be engaged in devotional service. For without being one with the Supreme Soul, absolute, one cannot render service unto Him. So, we just talked about the three gates leading to hell. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 16:21, Trividam Raksha Yagam Varam Masanam Atmanam Kamakudas Tatasovas Tasmarit Hatayam. That there are three gates leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So if anybody is saying, then they have to fight to leave these three leaders that will lead us to hell and will actually begin our demoniac life. That is lust, anger, and greed. So, how can we leave them? Because Krishna has made a lot of promises. He helps us in every aspect of our lives. And he says that I am seated in everyone's heart. And from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. And he also said that by all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Danta, and I am the knower of the Vedas. So, Krishna is sitting in our hearts, but we do not see him. We do not even recognize him. We are so full of ourselves that we cannot see anybody else. Prabhupada used to give the example that sometimes you can't even see the tip of your nose, but you're trying to look at everywhere. And basically, why is everybody looking away from everywhere? Because they're trying to grab something. They're trying to see what is that good side, what is that beautiful car, what is that beautiful thing that I can take and grab for myself. So we are so engaged in seeking, looking for things to pick, rather than looking for how to serve. Because the opposite of service is taking things for yourself, being somebody who grabs things. But in service, you are actually giving. You're giving everything that you have. You render service like that. So, because we're so busy, we forget that Krishna, who is also within our heart, has promised that from Him, His remembrance comes from Him. But He's sitting with us there, waiting for us to just approach Him. He's just waiting for us to take advance. Krishna, help me. Just like when Arjuna was defeated in the beginning of the second chapter, he says, Krishna, I'm now a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. And from there, then now the dialogue of devotional service begins. Similarly, up to until the soul realizes that they're actually suffering, then they cannot be able to understand or approach God. They think that they are the doer, they are the proprietors, they are everything. So within the processes of worship service, we are so many. There are 9 specifically mentioned, and each one of these 9 processes helps one to become closer. They can either be taken singularly or they can be taken progressively. Progressively in the sense that we start with hearing. And it's also said that through hearing, Maharaj Parikshit, by hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, he became liberated just by hearing alone. But there are 9 processes. So when once one hears, then the next step, if you hear something, then you can talk about what you heard. So the next step, Kirtanam, is glorifying the Lord. And we are told that Shukadeva Goswami, who had heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, but he narrated it, Parikshit Maharaj, got liberated by just reciting what he heard. So by that, he actually got liberated. But even one, as an individual, you can still hear, and at least you can really benefit of both. And once you chanted, then it means that you cannot chant, you chanted what you heard, which means that there was a memory, there was remembrance. And if you chant and repeat it again, over and over again, you'll always be able to remember. And that is why we are being called upon to chant Hare Krishna mantra every day, repeatedly. Because words have not power. And the words, the names of God are none different from Him, none different from His paraphernalia. They are actually equally powerful. So, through remembering of the Lord, Prahlad Maharaj got liberated. Prahlad Maharaj got liberated just by hearing the Lord. And once you start remembering the Lord, then automatically you start getting into a mood of service. You get into a mood of service because you remember the Lord, you've chatted about His glories, you've heard about it. Now the next thing is that you want to relate to Him more closely. And that brings out the mood of rendering service. So by trying to render service and serving the Lord, the city of the Lord, Lakshmi Devi actually got done results because she's constant with Masaya and the lotus feet of Vishnu. And by continuing to do that Lakshmi Devi, then we remember that once you've already rendered that service, then now you want to worship the Lord. You want to exalt Him above just being the service. And we are told that by worshiping the Lord, Ritu Maharaj achieved what he wanted. When you worship, then there's paraphernalia for worship. But at the same time also, there's prayers that come. So when you worship and it brings you to a mood of prayer. The next thing that brings you from worship, then you build a mood of prayer. And the told that Akrura, by offering prayers to the Lord, achieved his desired goal. And once you offer prayers and worship the Lord, then the next thing is that you want to serve the Lord in a very, very personal way. And the best example of one who serves the Lord in a very, very personal way is Hanuman. Hanuman, by serving Ram, he achieved his success through serving the Lord. And we are told that by serving the Lord, then eventually you become friends automatically. And through friendship, Arjuna achieved his desired success. And we are told that once you become friend of the Lord, then you want to offer everything that you have. You want to go to the absolute surrender. Absolute surrender. You have to surrender everything that you have to the Lord. And by surrendering everything to the Lord, Maharaj Bali got his desired result. So these 9 options of practice, they can either be progressive step by step, or you can only one of them is enough to actually release you and make you into the Father. We are running that way. So we have been here, we are saying that one who is knowledgeable, okay, because to be transcendentally situated, then because your intelligence is purified, therefore your knowledge must also be sharp. So how do we get this knowledge? By having this knowledge, it means that we have to understand exactly who is the supreme procurator of everything. Who is the procurator? Who is the absolute controller? And everything that we have, animate or inanimate, that is in the universe, is controlled and owned by the Lord. Therefore, we have to learn in our stages of coming to transcendence to accept what is actually rightful. And the previous shlokas that we've had, we are being told that we have to accept things that are needed for service and reject what is not needed for service. So, because the living entity, especially the conditioned state, has got 4 defects. He can commit mistakes, he's subject to illusion. He's got a cheating propensity, and he has imperfect senses. Therefore, Upanishad advises that Vacho Vegam Manasa Koga Vegam, Jiva Vegam Garapashta Vegam, Etan Vegani Vishahanta Dira, Sarvam Mahimam Prithivi Sasisya. That a person who categorically urges to speak the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, many organisms, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So you cannot be able to make disciples all over the world unless you already passed through the Brahma Buddha stage and become a pure bhakta. So we learn that to control our senses, then we have to come to a point of atonement. In fact, one of the questions that Parikshit Maharaj asked at Nandisharanya forest was the issue of atonement. That what is the issue of atonement despite not being able to control one's senses? For us who are chanting and continuously going forward, the offense that is like the atonement that he's talking about, because Parikshit Maharaj uses the example of an elephant. An elephant bites very nicely, comes out of the water, and gives it back again. So he says that is like somebody who has committed sin. Then he goes for an atonement, he is forgiven, and then immediately he comes back and commits sin again. So for us who are chanting, we have the self-offense against the holy name. Committing sinful activities is the step of chanting the holy name of the Lord. That we should try and avoid this sort of atonement if you want to progress, because we are not Prabhupada tells us here that the state of Brahma Buddha can be achieved by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is given us the holy name of the Lord. By the holy name of the Lord, we have to try and avoid offenses. Despite the fact that there are no hard and fast rules, but still, by avoiding these offenses, then we can come to that Brahma Buddha state. We have to be watchful, we have to be on our guard always, so that Prabhupada gives the example of some Christian churches where on Saturdays everybody goes to confess their sins to a priest, and then Sunday they start sinning again to come back the next day. Prabhupada gives that alternative that it's like the dog that vomits and then starts to eat that vomiting. So when you commit sins like that repeatedly, then they're actually going to be themselves and very, very good service. So we have to try and avoid the offense of committing sin just because we are chanting and hoping. Because of now chanting, and chanting is so powerful, therefore I can just continue committing sin and the chanting will cover that. That's actually a very, very degraded way of thinking. And because we are trying to find out exactly how best to get out of this situation in material world. And if you have become to the platform of the pure Vaishnava, then you'll not only be thinking about getting out of this world, but you'll also be thinking about saving this world. Hare Krishna.
Hare